about you guys, but it might not feel like grilling season or summer's around the corner, but I'm excited to grill. So I got a copy of Fire and Wine. I'm so excited. It is a Northwest-made cookbook by Mary Kressler and Sean Martin, and I asked them to join me today to grill some steak. We're doing wine marinated beef skewers live for you right now. We're transporting ourselves from Seattle to Hillsboro. And we've got Mary and Sean here with us right now. Thanks, you guys, so much for joining.
Thanks for having us.
So first off, most importantly, let's grab your wine and get cooking. So we've got
priorities.
It's a total priority. And also kind of the impetus of your book, correct?
Yes. Yes, of course. Living here in the Pacific Northwest, we're surrounded by fantastic wines. So we wanted to incorporate them into our book.
Well, that's great. We've got Quaddy North 2017 GSM with us right now.
Yes.
And it's delicious. And not only is it our wine for pairing with this dish that we're about to, you guys, I'm going to sit here and eat on my end. You guys are about to prepare for viewers. And it was used in the marinade for this beef as well as the pairing.
Yes.
So I'll let you guys take it from here and walk us through the wine marinated beef skewers with a cherry bourbon glaze.
Sure. So we are going to start out with our beef. So today we're using Snake River Farms beef, which is, we're all about Northwest today with this recipe. So we're going to take the beef and we're going to marinate it in this wine marinade. And then we're going to skewer them, grill them, and then we're going to brush them with a really delicious cherry bourbon glaze towards the very end. So I'll let Sean get started on putting together the beef.
Yeah. So we're using New York strip. So those are steaks that are from the strip loin. It's nice and narrow. And what's nice about it is the marbling. We really love the marbling in that specific cut. And it's great portions to spread out when you're making a skewer. You could use ribeye, you could use any other cut, but the New York we find is just the right amount. We grab 2 of the steaks, cut them in half, and then cube them up into about 1-inch cubes. And the marinade process is really about adding a little bit of that flavor so it carries from the marinade to the meat to the finished product. And with our marinades, we tend to like a little bit of acid, and we like to add really simple ingredients because we still want the meat to shine. And this is good stuff. It's American Wagyu. It's incredibly marbled. So we start with the wine. We have a little bit of beef stock to bring out the beefiness. Herbs, which we really like, thyme and rosemary, and a couple of other elements that just keep it really simple. You can marinate it overnight. You can even do it an hour or 2 before grilling. And that's kind of the whole process for us in a marinade. Keep it simple. I think sometimes, and again, flavor is all about what you like, but if you go too much into the flavor, like you're adding Worcestershire and all these other competing flavors, it tends to be the predominant flavor versus the beef. So when it comes to the skewers themselves, we also are taking what we had in the marinade. So this has been soaked overnight, and we simply add it to a wooden skewer. These are great for appetizers. So if you want to do like 2 beef to a stick, it could be a great appetizer, or you could do a meal by putting literally about half a pound of food on one of these long metal skewers. One of the tips, though, is if you're going to be grilling hot and fast and you have a wooden skewer, make sure you soak them for about a half hour so they don't burn up on you and catch fire.
I have to pop in here and show mine off. I'm very proud of them. This is just one of the strip steaks from Snake River Farms. It's huge. And I have a good sized cremini mushrooms in it too. I'm the only one here. I don't know who's going to eat all this.
We're ready. Great.
Yeah. All right, back on you guys.
Yeah, so basically with the skewer, you can really put any flavors you want. You can use red onions if you like white onions.
You can just keep it all beef and do the vegetables separate.
But one of
Nothing wrong with that.
yeah, exactly. But essentially what we're doing is we're skewering these up, and we're going to add a dry rub. So first layer of flavor is the marinade, and then we're going to add our beef rub from the book. And basically, yeah, please. Basically with the beef rub, we're keeping it really simple. Salt, pepper, garlic, a little bit of cayenne for heat. Some people love a lot more flavor, which is great. Use your favorite beef rub. But it's important to keep going with the flavor. So that rub is going to stick on there and give a nice crust when we get it on the hot grill. I'm curious, what kind of rubs do you like? Are you a salt person? Do you like sweet?
So I feel like I've talked about this on SIP before. My sister-in-law is from Alabama, and she has a secret family rib rub, and we put it on everything. I don't know in it, but we have our ideas of brown sugar, paprika, cayenne, salt. But she swears there's secret ingredients that we'll never be able to figure out. So, so we put that on everything, and I think it's a good combination of salty and sweet that makes a solid rub. But I don't know. You're the pit master. I'd listen to you, whatever you recommend. So.
Well, one of the things we like to highlight when we're grilling is when you add sugar to a rub, you have to be careful because sugar over direct flame is going to caramelize and can burn. So you'll find that for our hot and fast cooks, like
usually pretty low sugar, but for smoking, cooking at a low temperature, we love to add kind of that brown sugar element because it really slowly caramelizes as opposed to cooking it over that flame. You run that risk of it potentially burning.
Yeah. So,
and also having that kind of lower sugar element and higher salty savory really helps pair with the wines that you're working with too.
100%. Yep. And then we're still adding sweet to this because we're going to glaze it with that cherry bourbon barbecue sauce at the end. So that's going to add that just minor little to glaze at the end. So you're going to get that sweet from the glaze.
Yeah. And hopefully as people leverage our cookbook, and it's about finding the flavors you like, but if you want to add sweet, that's great. Use a glaze or some finishing sauce as opposed to putting it on. And you're going to find here, we're going to throw these on the grill. So we're using our Mac grill, and it's a pellet grill. This thing gets up to like 550, 600 degrees on the grill setting, which is awesome, and really important to want to have that high heat. So if you're at 500 degrees or more, you're going to get that nice sear, and you're going to avoid overcooking it. If you're at lower temp, like 300 degrees, what's going to happen is the Maillard reaction isn't really going to happen, and you're going to cook the steak all the way through without keeping that little bit of pinkness in the middle. So hot is important.
Yeah, you can do this on any grill you have that can get that hot. So we have a little kettle grill over in the corner that would be perfect for it as well. But we're using our Mac because, like I said, we're sticking with the locals here. So Mac is made right here in Oregon. So we are cooking it on that today.
Yeah.
What's the brand again? One more time.
That's Mac Grills out of Dallas, Oregon. Just outside of Salem.
They're about an hour away from us.
Yeah.
Can regular folks buy them?
Oh, yeah. You can buy them and they'll ship them right to your house. They have a couple of different models, which is awesome, depending on what you're cooking and how often. They've got a great built-in feature if you're looking for that really envious deck.
Yeah.
But what I really like, too, is the attention to detail, because in order to really get the right flavor that we like, having that hot temperature is so important. And when you look at your features on your grill, whether it's your kettle grill or a Kamado grill, having the ability to get really hot is important. And if you don't have something that gets that hot, let's say you have a different a pellet grill or some other item, then cast iron is your friend. You can drop these in cast iron, and that'll get the same sear, because that radiant heat that comes from a cast iron pan or skillet is really helpful too.
That is so smart. I would have never thought to do that.
So you can see these have just barely been on a minute, and there's already a sear on them. And we're going to keep going over that direct heat, probably about 4 to 5 minutes per side. Mm-hmm. And the other component that we learned through the recipe process is people follow recipes so literally, and we really tried to outline that every grill is going to be a different temperature. And You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, we can give you an estimate that it could take maybe 4 minutes per side, but if your grill is running hotter, it's going to take less time. If your temperature isn't as hot, it's going to take more time. So we really promote the idea of cooking your food to a temperature and not cooking to it to a specific time. So we might take 4 minutes, but it could take you more or less. And so your best friend when you're grilling is going to be a digital thermometer like this. And so you can get the exact reading. So instead of cooking it to a certain time, I want to know, I want to cook this to a medium rare. Okay, so I know I want to get it around 130, 135. If you want it rare, go to 120, 125. So you're going to use this to gauge your temperature as opposed to touching it or feeling it. A lot of chefs, a lot of people on those shows will tell you, to use your thumb. That's going to tell you when beef is done. And I'll tell you right now, my hand is different than Sean's hand. And, it's going to feel different to everybody. So plus chefs are cooking they're cooking hundreds of steaks a month. They know that. Your average backyard cook is, maybe cooking meat a couple times a week. So we really want you to get a good digital thermometer. Then you're going to cook your meat to the right temperature every single time.
Is there a brand you recommend that's a good standby?
There's a lot of brands out there. We are kind of partial to the ThermoWorks products because they're just fantastic. And they have an entry level one that's probably like $30. It's their Thermo Pop. Is it the Pop? This one is their kind of standard, which is good for pretty much anything. But we've just become, big fans of theirs over the years because they're just really reliable.
Yeah.
They work really well.
But if you go to any chef's kitchen, most likely they're going to have a ThermoWorks product in there. And it's worth the investment to make sure you look at the reviews and make sure you understand what you're getting. Because in addition to high quality, you want to get a warranty. You want to get that extra service as things break. But the reason these are so important is you get that instant read right away. Yeah. So you get that precision.
It's like 1 to 2 seconds to get your read.
Right.
And then the glaze.
Oh, yeah.
So as we kind of monitor these, the glaze has been cooked in advance and cooled down. And you want to talk a little bit about the flavors in the glaze?
Sure. This is kind of, I guess, closer to what your like Kansas City style barbecue sauce. It's a tomato-based barbecue sauce, but we start it with bourbon. Because all good things start with bourbon. We got some bourbon in there. We got cherry. We got some local cherry jam in there. So it's about a quarter cup of cherry jam that we mix with the bourbon. And then it's pretty standard after that. So we got some shallots, some garlic, some seasonings. And then we're just basically cooking that down. And if you want, you can puree it together if you want a more smooth consistency. Otherwise, you can put it on there without pureeing. It'll be a little chunky because of the onions. But we add that towards the very end because it does have a little bit of that sugar in there. But we're just, like, if you can see what Sean's doing, he's just lightly glazing it. We're going to let it cook a few, maybe a couple more minutes just to let that set and caramelize and then pull it off. So it's not going to be super heavy, although you did go a little heavy on that. I like that.
Wine. Hello.
But this sauce is good. I mean, you could just treat it like a barbecue sauce. You could put it over chicken. You could put it over anything. And if you have leftovers, which you might after making this recipe, just put it in a mason jar or some Tupperware, put it in your fridge, and just use it next time you're cooking outside.
Yeah, and I think the key on the sauce is, we started with wine in the marinade. I think especially with this wine, with the Quadi wine, a little bit of that bourbon. So it's not overly bourboned, the sauce, but it brings a little of that like savory element that you get with whiskey and bourbon. And I think it helps bring home all the flavors as we're going to go pair them, basically.
We already took over my next question, so I got that done. But I wanted to ask, what does the wine do in the marinade? How does that affect meat?
So the wine helps to tenderize it and give it flavor, really. So it acts as an acid. So as any acid would in your marinating process, it's going to help slowly tenderize it, but also it really does add some nice, rich kind of umami and fruity flavors to the finished meat once you cook it.
I have to say, when I pulled the marinade bag out of the fridge today and smelled it, and I was just like, oh, I'm so hungry. This is going to be fantastic. And now I'm sitting here cooking this myself along with you guys, and I'm just salivating. You can't see the drool, but it's happening. So.
Yeah, I call this recipe, it's like a flavor bomb because we got the marinade, you got the glaze, you have so many big flavors. And that's also why we want to we're pairing it with this wine because it's kind of a bigger, bolder style wine. We live in Pinot country. We're here in the Willamette Valley, but I think most Pinots would be a little too light for this particular recipe. We have a lot of Pinots recommended throughout the book, but for this, because of the sauce, because of the marinade, we're going with, you could pair it with Syrah, you could pair it with a Malbec, even a Tempranillo, but we're pretty big fans of some of the Southern Oregon wines down there. So that's why we went with a blend, a GSM blend, so Grenache, Mourvedre blend. And this one's from Quaddy North, and they make fantastic wines. They make super solid, fantastic wines. And so it's got like this plum flavor, it's got pepper, it's got spice. So with this, because of all the dry rub and the flavors, we're going with something fruity, something spicy, and something that has at least enough power and structure to stand up to some of those bigger, bolder flavors.
Yeah, it's delicious. I'm going to check on my beef. I'm going to send it back to just you guys.
Perfect. So one of the things that we also like to do after we pull the skewers off is what we call the rest period. So what I might do is see if I can get a close-up of this.
You need to close with this one too,
Yeah.
since after it's been rested a while.
So resting the meat allows the meat to slowly cool. And two things happen when you rest the meat. The first is there's carryover cooking. So that's where it continues to cook because that heat from the outside wants to travel to the cool spot. And so you'll see a 3 to 5 degree increase in your temperature. So it allows the carryover cooking to keep going. So if you like your steak cooked to 140, 145, pull it off at 135 or 140 and let it keep cooking. And then after 10 or 15 minutes or so of resting, as the meat starts to cool, those cells kind of pull that moisture back in. So it stays moist versus what you hear about, cutting into a steak right off the bat and then all the juices flow out and then it can get dry. So, I mean, if you're going to eat them right away, so be it, because they're just going right in the mouth. But if you're doing this for a crowd or you're kind of doing this as the entry to a fun event in your patio, then it's just nice to let them rest for a few minutes. It cools down a little bit.
It's such a small piece. A couple minutes is fine. As opposed to a larger piece of meat, you're going to want more time.
Yeah.
So really it's based off of how big of a cut you have.
I have to tell you guys, when we got the beef and I showed it to my husband and he was like, I can't believe you're going to marinate this. And I was like, no, just wait. It's going to be even better. But here, let's zero in on that piece again.
Yeah, so here we go. We've got our big skewer. So this one is fit for one serving. Or like for events, we'll take, 2 pieces of the meat, put them down on a tray, add a little dollop of the sauce and maybe a little finishing salt.
Yeah. You're doing it as an appetizer. Keep it simple. Get smaller. Some of those wooden skewers we had, just put a couple on there.
Sorry, I had to eat one. Calling my name.
I'm about to pull mine off. I think they're almost ready.
Dive in. I'm going to bypass the onions and go straight to the beef.
Yeah. But you can use any vegetable that you want. We kept it simple. Again, we want that beef and the flavor to shine with the wine. Walla Walla sweet onions would be really fun. And during the sweet onion season, those are always great to grill up. Any kind of mushroom, but we like the creminis. You can cut up a portobello, the larger version. You can even go with the starch. You could parboil some potatoes and throw those on there too and have fun with it.
I really like the creminis with it. I think they're so big and beefy. Like they make a lot of sense. So I have to show you guys mine. I'm really proud.
Yeah, I want to see it.
I'm not taking them off yet. I'm not eating them. I think I got mine are mini. I have only 6-inch skewers.
Oh, that's
perfect.
all
All good. That looks awesome.
I'm so proud.
They look perfect.
The cherries are explosive. Like literally, I pulled them off the grill and they just splattered everywhere. But
yep,
they're going to be delicious. I'm so excited, and I think it's going to pair perfectly with the wine.
How about that smell?
The smell is fantastic. But I told you I was hooked to the marinade. So this is so delicious, you guys. I cannot wait to dig in. For more recipes and everything that you can do with the grill and wine, we can just find you guys at vindulge.com/cookbook, where you can buy the cookbook at your retailer of choice. But Fire and Wine's been out for about a month now. And do you feel like you've had This would be a third child for you guys now?
Oh yeah, for sure. It was definitely a third child. That was it was a labor of love, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun to make it. Just like, I mean, most kids, I guess. They're hard, but they're fun. They're great.
Yeah. Well, and I think that the journey has been amazing. You think you get done when the manuscript's submitted, and then you get ready for the launch, and then
there's a pandemic.
And then it gets a little nuts. But
everybody's cookbook release. There's always one.
Yeah, exactly. So at the end of the day, it's like partners like you, like just sending our gratitude for having a chance to do this. And I think we've been surrounded by a lot of amazing partners, brands, friends, people we work with over the years, and
very supportive.
We try to tell people this. I mean, this is what we do in our backyard. We want it to be approachable. We want you to learn things, have some wine.
It's always a good thing. Well, thank you guys so much. I don't want to dig into mine yet, but you popped a couple bites. Is it delicious?
Yeah.
Delicious.
So good. So good.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today and telling us how to do this. You'll be able to find the full recipe at sipmagazine.com so that you can make it at home, including recommended wines, beef, bourbon, local cherry jam. What else can we do? Okay, hold on. I got my one final thing. All Oregon all day.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.